Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people of all ages, welcome back to the Sticky Floors podcast. I am one of your hosts, CJ, and I am joined by Mr. Will. And tonight we are in our comic book bag because we're talking about one of the certainly most recognized comic book films of all time, The Dark Knight. And this movie completes our month of Christopher Nolan films. So we've been doing a deep dive into Christopher Nolan's catalog. We started with Memento, and then we moved on to Inception. Last week we covered The Prestige, and now we're closing it out with The Dark Knight. Mr. Will, what's up with you, man? I see you got the Batman shirt on, man. Like if you can't see it, if you're not on YouTube, you don't see it, man. But he got the Batman joint on. He's in his alter ego bag. How you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well.
That's,
Live, breathing. About to get into a topic that both of us are very knowledgeable about. So, this should
yeah,
be
it should
fun.
be, man.
What's going
Yo,
on with you?
first of all, I gotta say I'm jealous because you got the Batman shirt on. I was thinking all week, dang, am I just gonna try to buy a Batman T-shirt? And I was like,
Mm.
nah, it was too cold to go outside, so I didn't do that, man. So I kept.
well, well, I don't blame you, man. It is kind of chilly out,
Where
man.
I live, man. It's been like single digits, man, all the time, man.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
you only go out if you have
Same,
to, and
same.
like. Shout outs to Batman, but it wasn't that deep. but
Oh, it's
like yeah, man, like
crazy.
I was saying, so we've been covering the Christopher Nolan films, and also if you've been
Yeah.
listening this month, we have also been doing a raffle. And so we have been
Yes.
partnering with Mr. Cassim George, a phenomenal photographer. And
Yeah.
he has
Shout out
been
to.
working, he's offered a raffle to us. And basically what we've been asking for this last month is to subscribe to our channel and like one of our videos, and that enters you into a raffle. If you're looking at this on YouTube right now, you're going to see I'm putting up a couple of pictures that Mr. Cassim George has created, really working with some models.
Yep.
Anyone who that we're going to select someone from the raffle, that person is going to get a free photo shoot. So you're gonna, get a chance to get some really quality shots, maybe some headshots, some professional stuff, maybe some
Yeah.
stuff you want to put on your wall behind your pool table like Belly, whatever you want to do, you'll be able to do that. Only condition is that you need to be able to charge or travel to the Prince George's County, Maryland area because that's where Mr. George's studio is. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, he is at KIG Photos. We just showed a couple of what his pictures look like, but if you go to that site, you will see the quality of his work.
Yeah, and the ones that CJ put up, man, those joints are
Yeah,
fire. I definitely love the recent ones. I don't know, man. It's hard to pick a favorite because the
yeah,
red one is giving off like the
it
Fenty's
definitely did like that. Yeah,
vibe, man. That joint is tight. The bow, like that model's crushing it. I definitely like the dress on the
yeah,
Josephine
it definitely
Baker
gave you
ish.
Josephine Baker vibes, no doubt.
Yo, and I like that color green in the background, man, the way it
Yeah.
contrasts. And definitely the dude at the end, I don't know who that brother is, but yo, man, he's looking sharp, man. Like I like that color blue suit. I'm gonna have to
You know what I'm
cop me
saying? With
one,
the
yo.
yellow hat, like
Yeah.
that. That looked like,
Yeah.
when back in the day when you used to get the magazine and you opened it up. Remember they used to have the
Yeah.
cologne on the side. You could take it off and rub the joint all over
Yeah, the sample yeah,
before
the
you went to
sample
school in
joint.
the morning.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
looked like it
man.
looked like that type of joint, man. So yeah, so definitely
Yeah.
subscribe to the channel, like one of our videos. You'll be entered into the raffle. The competition ends on January 31st. So we will then maybe be selecting the raffle winner. We will connect you with
Mhm.
Mr. George, and then you can make the arrangements. And then hopefully, you'll share some pictures with us, and we'll be happy to put it on the show when we have some of our future episodes. So
Yeah,
with all of
definitely,
that
man.
said, man, we are about to get into this joint. I'm gonna pass it over to my man, Mr. Will.
Appreciate that, sir. As Bart Scott would say, can't wait. So here we go with The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is a thrilling superhero film that blends elements of horror, drama, and fantasy to create a gripping narrative filled with mystery and suspense. In the heart of Gotham City, Batman, Police Lieutenant James Gordon, and District Attorney Harvey Dent form a formidable alliance to dismantle the tangle web of organized crime. Yet their noble efforts are perilously derailed by the Joker, a chaotic and anarchistic mastermind whose intentions are as mysterious as they are terrifying. The Joker's psychological games push Batman to the edge, raising the dark question of how far will he go to prevent the city from descending into chaos. The cityscape of Gotham becomes a haunting backdrop to the dramatic tale, a place where fantasy intertwines with reality in unsettling ways. As tensions escalate, the film weaves a complex narrative around the Joker's identity and his true
There it
plans.
is, man. Yo, you started off by talking about that collaboration with Harvey Dent and Commissioner or Lieutenant Gordon in this till he becomes
At the
Commissioner
time, yeah.
and the Batman. And I love the line where Two-Face says, we tried to be decent men in an indecent world
Mm,
and we were wrong, right? And it's like the
mm,
whole this movie is so I loved this film, right? As I was telling you in the
yeah.
pre-production, I saw this 4 times in the movie theaters when it came out.
Which I could not
Yo, and
believe
that was real
when you
money.
said that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Double digit
Yeah,
money, man. That's not
yeah.
no $3,
No, man,
$5
no, and I
joint.
wasn't doing matinees either, man. Like I was after
No.
work for that joint, man. But yeah, man, this
Oh
joint, I just
man.
remember seeing it and feeling like I had not seen a Batman film like this, right? And I think in many ways the Dark Knight has become sort of the definitive Batman film, and it's like what you compare everything else to when you're talking about Batman, and then also
Mm,
becomes like this thing that so many other comic book films are compared with it as well. I think like we've been talking about Christopher Nolan, just what he does, what he's done from a film perspective. He puts this movie right in between the Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar, right? No,
mhm,
sorry, not Interstellar, Inception. So he goes like it's such a crazy just trajectory of filmmaking. But this one right
mhm.
here, I feel this is like the 65-point game in Madison Square Garden because
Mm,
what he did with this is he took a genre that people looked at as being sort of childish or childlike, and he made
yes.
it super mature, and it built off of what he was doing with Batman Begins. But I think this just knocked it out.
I would second that, man, because this movie was talked about in Oscar
Yep.
nominations and Academy Awards. So definitely props to him for elevating the genre as a whole. And as you did say, it was the bar that was set with this film as far as how could you appeal to the masses in a very serious tone, but yet not so serious where there are comedic
Yeah.
elements
Yeah.
and also how would individuals who are of that ilk of that luster prestige as far as character actors and just movie stars, if you will, such as Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, and Christian Bale. I mean, these guys are
Yeah.
nominated. They're phenomenal
Yeah.
actors.
Using great talent and then using talent that he's so familiar with working with because
Hmm.
like last week we covered the Prestige. He's used to working with Christian Bale. He's used to working with Michael
Money.
Caine, right? He gets
Hmm.
a little Chillian Murphy in here a little bit in the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
he's got his team, and he's like, and you can see like they're all very familiar with these characters. Like I didn't necessarily always feel like Christian Bale got Bruce Wayne in the first movie, but he's
Hmm.
a little bit more into
Mm.
it. Like Bruce Wayne has got his Bruce Wayne flex on in this one. Of course, Alfred, Michael Caine is just he's in it as far as that goes. And then Heath Ledger, I mean, what he does with the Joker is like it pushed it so far out into the stratosphere that it makes it hard for someone else to play it.
Agreed. He is the torchbearer. When people think of the Joker, they automatically go to him. And rightfully so. He won an Academy
Yeah.
Award based upon
Posthumously, right.
his depiction. Yeah, you know what I mean, of his depiction of the Joker. And aside from that though, I think that he stole it so much so that it's part of the reason why I didn't give this 5 mics, because he
He does.
outshined the so-called lead actor. Like, and I mean, like, by
He really
leaps and
does.
bounds. I thought this was a Joker movie, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, because of the way that Batman slash Christian Bale takes a
Yeah,
backseat
I
to it.
mean, Heath Ledger, exactly. He's so captivating that
Yeah,
every scene you can't wait for him to hit the screen, right?
I mean, from the
Yeah.
rip, man, that
Oh
bank scene.
man, shout outs to Heat, like the Heat robbery, man.
Yeah,
Just so
yeah,
well strategically planned out.
yeah. I mean, like, even from the design, with the makeup all the way to his suit. Even, I mean, like, he has a meme where he's clapping in the jail, in the
Yeah.
prison. Like, that's used
Yeah.
everywhere, by everyone. I mean, even his lines, you know what I mean? Such as the one where he's like, if you're good at
Don't never
something,
do it for
don't
free.
do it for
Yeah. Great
free.
quote. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's t-shirts that say why so
Hmm.
serious, even though it's from The Killing Joke. There's just so many things that he does that makes it seem like basically impossible for them to even use the character again, because you can't replicate his performance. I think it's the reason why Jared Leto got panned
Right.
so much, because, like, that he did. Everybody knows that they didn't use all of
Yep.
his scenes that from the Snyderverse, that they were cut, whatever have you. But it doesn't matter. People don't
Yeah.
care. Whether even they preview the scene on YouTube, where it's the apocalyptic
Yeah. At that,
team up
yeah,
between
in
him and,
the suicide, Justice League.
yep, yep, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's the type of Joker we want to see as far as the interaction, but we don't
Yeah.
care. We want
Yeah.
Heath Ledger all the time.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we're talking about comic book movies. We're always talking about, like, does the director get the characters?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan, they get Batman, but they
Yep.
really got the Joker, and they really
Mm-hmm.
understood, like, what the Joker is like historically, and historically is obviously in comic books, but also in movies too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did Jack
Yep.
Nicholson do with the Joker before? And then
Yeah.
they modernized it and they made it relevant and real to the times. And they telling
Yeah.
the story where I used to watch this movie and I used to think to myself, I forget that this is about a guy who dresses up as a bat fighting against a guy who dressed up as a clown
Mhm.
in a major metropolitan city, because that
Yeah.
concept is crazy, but it's so grounded in reality and realistic themes and
Mhm.
terms that it makes you forget it, which is why it's such a good movie.
Yeah, stylistically, it helps too, you know what I mean? The way that they use lights and
Mhm.
shadows, the choreography between, like, the different scenes and interactions, the rapport that they have. Like we said, the dialogue, like, it hits on a numerous amount of levels. The only thing that I would question, though, is, um, the fight the fight scenes that heavily involve Christian Bale. I would offer some pushback only in this. When the Joker shoots him and he avoids, like, running him over or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
have you, and they're trying, like, I don't know, it just seemed like he went down
Yeah.
too easy. Like it didn't. I don't know. There was something about it that just didn't
Yeah.
appeal to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it's interesting because, like you said, and I think I agree with you, the Joker becomes so big in the movie that it kind of takes away.
Hmm.
Batman kind of gets a little bit
Yeah.
smaller, which is crazy because
Yeah.
it's a Batman film.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely there. I agree with that for sure. I think there's also this thing that I think Nolan is trying to do with telling, like, this meta story, but using these comic book characters to do it. So in The Dark Knight, they're also talking about, like, okay, what does society do when faced with terror?
Mm,
Or a
yeah.
terrorist, and how what should be the response of society to that? And then, towards
Hmm.
the end you get into this notion of, should you live in a surveillance world, right? Because
Mm,
Batman is able to use, all the cell phones to find the Joker, but, as Lucius Fox character is saying, played by Morgan Freeman, he's now invaded the privacy of everyone, because he's turned everyone
mhm.
into a way of spying on each other in order to find one person. So it's like these very, like, adult themes are also being played out amongst these comic book characters in this fictitious world.
And the piggyback on that, it's almost a case of art imitating life and life imitating
Absolutely.
art. You really can't separate between the two, because at that time, you had Snowden, and you had, the really coming off of the heels of 9/11, still fresh in everybody's
Absolutely.
head. You still had, TSA, which was not something that was always in
Yeah.
existence, folks. For those,
Department of
yeah, I
Homeland
may be dating
Security, all
myself.
that stuff that got started
Yeah,
during,
yeah.
9/11.
Yeah. So you see that those traces of it, where the cops are at the station talking about no more dead cops. So you see how, Blue Lives
Hmm.
Matter movement, on the fringes of that. Just all these things coming together, where you have now individuals compromising on certain freedoms for
Yes.
security,
Yes. Yeah.
and that vigilante movement too. Even there's always the case of, protecting your home. So you have you know the shooting in Florida with unfortunately it escapes my name, George I
Zimmer.
can't think of his name right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
George Zimmer.
Zimmerman.
Where
Yeah.
you had Zimmerman, where you had the guy dressed up like Batman, and Batman says to him, the guy asks him rather, hey, what's the difference between me and you? I'm just doing what you're
Yeah.
doing, something to that effect. And he says, yeah, the difference is I'm not wearing
Yeah.
hockey pads, and then you start to think like, what happens when there's lawlessness and individuals are trying to act in the best interests of not only themselves and the public at large, but they're not equipped to handle those types of situations. They aren't. They are ill-advised, ill-formed, and quite frankly, they have malevolent intentions where they want to be judge, jury, and
Yeah, because
executioner.
they're jumping in with shotguns, right? Like
Yeah.
they're jumping in trying to kill people, which is the
Yeah.
one thing, the saving grace of Batman as a character is that
Hmm.
he is absolutely a vigilante. He's absolutely operating outside the law, but he's not killing people, right? And so
Right.
the copycat Batmans, they're taking it to a logical
Whole nother
conclusion,
level.
because like
Yeah. But
there is this concept like within this film and all the films actually build on this idea of like what is the escalated outcome of all of this stuff. So in
hmm
the first one, like Batman destroys basically the mob, right? The mafia in
Yep.
Gotham City, and reveals all this corruption. Now those same people are like, all right, cool, we can't stop this dude, so we need to call the
hmm
Joker to deal with it, which escalates the situation. And then of course in The Dark Knight Rises, then you see like the final escalation, which is complete societal breakdown at the hands of Bane, right? So it's like there's just so many. There's such a rich film, and the fact that Nolan is able to tell the conclusion of that story and take it to a reasonable ending is what I think makes it one of the better comic book trilogies of all time.
Yeah, and I think another thing that goes underappreciated is the fact that you do have someone who is the stereotypical um, conservative individual. He's a single white
Hmm.
male,
Bruce Wayne,
roughly
yeah,
in his early, yeah, like maybe early 30s, but definitely in late 20s, where he's established now. He knows the difference. He's seen some things, been around the world. Typically, that person would be very nonchalant, cavalier, living a playboy lifestyle, flaunting his wealth. But he uses that as a charade, where he's really one who's like, hey, some things I'm conservative on, some things I'm liberal on, some things I'm still trying to figure out for myself where the line actually lies. I think that segment is ripe for commentary as a
yeah.
whole.
Yeah, because it's also because you also get into like the idea of class distinction, right? Because
Hmm.
Bruce Wayne is like not in the class of most of the people he comes into contact with in these
No.
movies. And even in that scene where he's at dinner with Harvey Dent and Rachel, which I love, like how he's like,
Yeah.
no, they're gonna let me stay there because I own this joint. Like Bruce has a lot
Yeah.
of flexes throughout the film, but
Yeah.
like like he kind of sits back and does the who appointed the Batman to do these things, and he's like
Hmm.
playing that psychological game with Harvey
Yeah.
Dent
Trying to see.
that people who've read Batman comic books for years like, because they know that, for the most part, Batman is the real thing and Bruce Wayne is the
Hmm.
mask, right? So like he
Yeah.
plays a great job of playing the mask. And that's why I said I think Christian Bale does a better job playing Bruce Wayne in this movie than he did in,
Yeah.
Batman Begins.
But I also think too, he had more
No
material to
doubt.
work with. The character was further along in his journey, in his arc as Bruce Wayne slash Batman. And I also think too that some of the things that were going on were, he was dealing with the loss of his
Hmm.
parents. So there's that trauma. So he's forever, that 10-year-old boy in the alley, witnessing the death of his parents. Simultaneously, he's taking on a new role as savior. I mean, he's a Christ-like figure where he literally comes from what they considered a very upstanding family.
Hmm.
Like he's well-to-do,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But simultaneously, his father's a doctor. They know about giving back to the community, doing charitable works. So he's not your stereotypical snobbish Scrooge, shisty type of
Hmm.
rich guy. He's the antithesis of that. And I think that works on so many different levels. And then, like I was commenting on with respect to the trauma, I would like to just segue a little bit to how all these things are intentional. There is no, hey, happenstance. This is circumstantial, whatever have you. So The first thing that talks about trauma is, you have a licensed professional in Dr. Crane who becomes the Scarecrow, and he meets him and he says snarkily, "Hey, that's not my
He said, I
diagnosis."
don't need any
And,
help. He's like, yeah.
yeah. You know what I mean? So that works on so many levels. Then, it escalates to where now he's dealing with the Joker, who represents chaos,
Absolutely. Yeah.
anarchy, wanting to see the world burn. And then another side is the duality of which exists in man and how fragile one's psyche can be if given the right push. Because for those comic book fans that know, the Joker's all about, hey, one bad day is all it takes for everyone to descend into madness.
Yeah, and what you're alluding to is like, of course, what happens to Harvey Dent. So you see Harvey Dent go from a character who's like the shining white knight of the Gotham City, and then in the end, he ends up being like, Two-Face. And there's a scene like the interrogation room scene where Joker is talking to Batman and he tells him, you're not like these other people, because
don't
they'll
do
drop
that.
their code as soon as things get rough, and he knows that Batman won't. And what you see is like Harvey Dent unfortunately does, because he goes from I'm a guy putting people in the jail to I'm a guy flipping coins and shooting people,
putting people in the grave
based on what happens by chance, right? So he completely loses it, and that's a stand-in for what the population does in the midst of this kind of chaotic situation. Because could you imagine living in a city where things are just constantly blowing up for no reason and the hospital is exploded? Like,
that hospital scene is so impactful,
crazy,
by the way,
man.
because you start thinking about what would you do to protect your loved ones? Would you cross the line into doing things that you outright know are criminal?
Right. I mean, like Joker's on TV saying, if you kill, I don't want Coleman Reese to say who Batman really is. So if you kill him in an hour, if you don't, I'm blowing up a hospital. You can't get out on the bridge because I put stuff on the bridge. I put stuff in the tunnels.
Like, how? First of all, he is the master strategist tactician,
really
man.
is.
Like, he has anticipated everything. He wanted to be put in jail, and he already had somebody with a bomb in their stomach. Like, he's playing 3D chess. Simultaneously, though, I do like how he symbolizes anarchy and chaos, and Batman is order, stability, structure, unanimity. But you commented on Two-Face being, the element of fate or chance. I like that he leaves it up to a coin, but he tries to act as if he can control destiny by having a two-sided coin that has the same face. And that goes back to the element of twos, Two-Face, two people, the duality that exists in man. I think the thing too, like in hindsight, it's just crazy. Him being the White Knight, Batman being the Dark Knight. In the comic book, they're best friends. They're two sides of the same coin. Joker and Batman are two sides of the same coin, to the point where there's so much satire that they're boyfriends, and that Harley is in a trouble. Like, it just hits on so many levels, and that's why I'm like, man, Christopher Nolan was really very intuitive, and he was very in pinpoint precision with selecting the different characters that he wanted to use in a very grounded, realistic universe that he created.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's so much like really good foreshadowing. Like even with Two-Face, like he jokes in the beginning with Gordon that they call me Harvey Two-Face, right? But you don't really hear it all the way out to the end. So it's like so many little breadcrumbs of things that are happening that you get it. Like even at the end when Batman uses all the phones to like create that sonar effect, it's hinted at when he goes to Lau's place with the one,
and he says it's submarine like radar. I mean, like sonar.
It's just a really, really well done film. But without question, Heath Ledger's performance is like what jettisons it to a whole nother level. And we remember that when people said like Heath Ledger was going to play this, everybody was like, nah, the dude from
it was like,
Mountain, nah, he can't do it. He ain't hard enough for it, everything. And then he just completely knocked it out of the box. And I think he has now made it where you kind of have to give somebody a chance all the time, because you don't know what's going to happen with them. I mean, I remember when they didn't want Ben Affleck to play Batman, and he knocked it out of the box with Batman.
Yeah, it's so crazy how people can get typecast. I mean, Ben Affleck played a character in George Reeves who was typecast during the portrayal of him
Yeah.
being Superman. So he was an actor playing an actor who played a
Yep.
character. And that just goes to your point about, giving people the opportunity to see what they can do. And we see it again with another Batman in Robert Pattinson in the upcoming second Batman movie. And he actually did a pretty I was really shocked because, again, like you were saying with Brokeback Mountain and Heath Ledger, I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is the dude from Twilight,
movies,
man.
right?
I'm like, come on, man. I'm not trying to hear
Yeah.
this. I don't want to see
Yeah.
this. But he was actually pretty decent, better than what I thought. And it actually worked to his advantage that people were like shunning him and being so much adamant that he couldn't pull it off.
Sometimes lower expectations kind of help you to when you like
Mhm.
your effort just goes up to a whole nother level.
Well, look at Ryan Reynolds with the Green Lantern, and now everyone
Deadpool.
loves him as Deadpool. Or even, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
Ben Affleck. A lot of people didn't like Daredevil. I liked it for what it was at that particular time. And then, now he comes out as Batman, and it'll lead to one of our questions later on.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, once again, I mean, just like just a really well done film. I think, like, as we said, Christopher Nolan got and understood like what Batman was about, really
Yeah.
got and understood what the Joker was about. And he just puts it into this world where the conclusion of it is sensible. And he also still gives you this uses that scene at the end with the two boats. One boat's got the regular people on it, one boat's got all the criminals on it.
Tiny
Yeah,
Lester's on that
how
joint.
about that? Yeah, shout out to Debo, man. Still
Yeah.
Debo escaped from Friday and got arrested in Gotham City.
I was just about to say that. He took the words right out my mouth and say I stole it from you and do what you should have done.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love that. But it's like in that scene, that's the referendum on what the Joker kind of thinks about society, because he thinks everybody will look out for themselves and do like I've been doing. But the boat scene at the end kind of questions that. And I like that because that's sort of like maybe that's a little Pollyanna-ish, because I'm sure one of the boats would have blown up the other one in real life. But I like the point that Nolan is trying to make about humanity in the tightest spots will kind of press together more so than tear apart.
Well, you mentioned it with just the real life symbolism as far as the actors and being typecast. People, humanity rising to the occasion if given the proper opportunity to do so. Like Heath Ledger, like forget Brokeback Mountain for a second. He was a teen actor, you know what I mean? Like a heartthrob, if you will. So we don't necessarily take those people serious. I mean, he was 10 Things I Love About, I Hate About You. He was in
Knight's Tale.
A Knight's
I remember
Tale.
watching that. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so you're looking at that dude like, come on, man, what can you do? But as Tiny Lester's character indicated, like, look, man, we made our decisions. Yeah, we're bad men, but we're not going to sit here and blow up babies and women at the whim of this insane individual. And simultaneously, it's foreshadowed that, you know what? People will rise up to the occasion. They will do the right thing. There is goodness within humanity. For evil to exist, good people have to either stray from the light, or they have to, in order to rise to the occasion, to say enough is enough. And that whole saying about, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I mean, that echoes and foreshadows the descent as far as these three, the triumvirate coming to.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, it just, there's nothing else, there's really nothing else I can say, because that's actually exactly what it's saying. All right, man, let's get into the cake, man. I know, like, we both got slices for this, man. Let me, if you don't mind, I'll start off with. So
please,
a couple of things. You alluded to it earlier. I like the idea of like the Batman, because I think that's what would really happen. Like there's this idea of like Batman saying, okay, I want to be this symbol that disrupts the idea of crime and apathy that's happened and plagued Gotham City. Well, yeah, of course, people would start dressing up like Batman and doing all, like, it's a natural conclusion to it. And I just like that was in there. And I also like that Joker killed one of them dudes, because that's also what would happen, right? Like people would be like, oh, you're not the real Batman. We about to beat you. You about
I'm gonna show you what
you're not prepared for this, right? It's like when the Joker says to him, like he's like, Batman taught us that we don't have to be afraid of you. And he's like, oh no, yeah, you do need to be afraid of me. Oh no, you wrong. You about to learn today.
You're gonna learn today.
Final lesson, right? So I like that. I like that part. I also like that, and Nolan did this in the first movie, but it's even heightened here. The idea of like he breaks Batman down into like this essential thing. So in this movie,
Mm,
Batman is basically he don't have a cave no more because the house burned down. He's in a
yeah,
one like 5,000 foot square foot building. He's got his bat suit,
yeah,
some computers, and that's it. And it's like he doesn't have like there's no plane, and maybe the plane was a little too much in the Dark Knight Rises, but it's like he just breaks Batman down to a guy, a suit, a car, and he's just getting it. And I've always liked
hmm,
how you see the origin of the things that Batman has. Like, yeah, he can draw up some schematics, but he needs Lucius Fox to help build the stuff that he's got, the car
hmm,
and all those things. It makes it once again grounded in reality, and it shows you like the essential sort of nature of Batman is minimalist and he's extraordinary at the same
yeah,
time. So I really like that. I love that there's no origin for the Joker. I love that they don't try to tell the
mm,
story. They don't turn him into Jack Napier from like the Batman. He falls
yeah,
into the
yeah,
pit. The fact that he's that you never know like who he is or where he comes from. It adds to the terror that he creates throughout the movie.
yeah,
So I just thought that was a great part too. And then the last thing is like just the inevitable breakdown of Batman, and you start to see it a little bit here
mm,
when the scene where Alfred's telling him like you got to know your limits. Like you see his back is already all messed
yeah,
up. Like
hmm,
there's no way that Bruce Wayne in real life could be Batman for more than maybe 5.5 years, 5 years or so,
if that,
or if that, right? And it's like you're starting to see through the movie this reality that even he comes to that I can't do this forever. And the way that I'm doing it isn't necessarily having the outcome that I thought it was going to. Because
hmm,
now I got to deal with the Joker, right? I already got Scarecrow. I already got Ra's al Ghul. I like everything is just keeps getting more and more out of control.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, what happens? Is this really sustainable? And I think he starts the question now, and that makes sense for where the last movie goes. So that's my cake for this one.
You know what? And kudos to you, man. Those three things that you touched upon are very like there's meat on the bone to really dissect that because of the complexities of what it takes to be a solo
Yeah.
vigilante are on full display. Like you need a team, you need a network. So in all realities, you would have to have a Lucius
Got to.
Fox, you would have to have an Alfred
Got to.
Pennyworth, and you would need more than
Yeah.
just them. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Like this is a guy who's wealthy, he's in shape, he's studied different arts as far as like the martial arts as well as intellectually like being a
Mm-hmm.
detective, being a psychologist, and all those other tidbits that he's able to bring upon himself. Like you're going to need
Yeah.
more than just what he has to the table. And then you also mentioned, the fact that like the Joker origin isn't even
Yes.
told. So it does add to the mystique because it's terror. Like people fear things that they
And don't
don't know.
understand. Yeah.
And that's the whole, yeah, they can't understand it. And Alfred, and this is the great usage of foreshadowing where Alfred tells him, yo, maybe it's something that the Batman doesn't even understand. So, you have a very cocky, full of himself Batman even saying like, hey,
All
man,
criminals are the
criminals are very
same. Yeah, but
simplistic.
they're not.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, nah, this dude is the
Yeah.
outlier. You ain't ready for what he brings to
Yeah.
the table. And I love the fact that this movie also is a continuation of themes that he's discussed in other movies. So, with that being like the pencil trick and
Oh
using
yeah.
the
Yeah.
illusion or the allure of
Yeah.
magic, and he does it, and it's in line with the Prestige, which we
Mm-hmm.
just did. With Inception, the whole thing about control and being able to understand one's psychological makeup, their psyche, their id and their ego, what it is that truly makes
Yeah.
them then. And even, other movies that he's done that we've covered too, like a lot of that stuff that he's done is in
Yeah.
this movie. So when you mention like, yo, Interstellar, and Inception and Prestige, like these movies are in the
Yeah.
Batman movie. And that's why I think it works on a lot of
No
levels
doubt.
too. I like you, I love the cast. So shout out to what's her name? Detective Ramirez, who's also in Power. She's Angela's
Oh, how
sister.
about that? Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
Paz. Oh, okay. And like in hindsight, you're able to put it together. But at the time, you can't really put it together. And shout out, obviously, like we mentioned, Tony Lester. There's in the opening scene, William, I forget his name, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
great
Yeah. The
character
guy plays the
actor.
bank manager
Um,
who's got the sawed
yeah,
off in his desk.
yeah. And and So he takes off the glasses and he's like, "Oh,
Right.
you're all
Right.
dead." Like I would like the tone, the indignation, just the way he gives that speech is just so
Yeah.
off the chain, man. Like I wouldn't have expected that. And then of course, you got Michael Jai White in there as
Mhm.
Gamble. Man, even though he's only in it for a couple of minutes and he gets murked,
Mhm.
just the way that like he shows like his short fuse, which is another commentary on being patient, understanding who it is that you're dealing with and not jumping the gun. And then you have, of course, Eric what's his name? Oh man, I can't think of his last name. Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother, as uh, Mr. Malzoni.
Oh,
Um,
Maroney. Maroney, yeah,
Maroney,
Maroney.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
like like even like cameos from him. It's just this movie is just so full of characters and class and cast members that I'm like, oh man, I remember him in
Yeah.
this, and oh, that's the reason why like it really resonates with me. The storytelling and the story itself, it's very simplistic yet it's complex at the same time, man. The character development, like you get to see these individuals, where they start off, and they're very
Yeah.
cultured in the way that they're layers upon layers upon layers as to who
Yeah.
they are.
And the Batman's journey, like going from like
Oh yeah,
where he starts as like
yeah.
people kind of like him to the end when he's
Hmm.
like the Dark Knight. He's become like
Yeah.
he's become the outcast. All the things that like Alfred is really like narrating the whole movie the whole time. Like
Yes.
you said, he tells
Yes.
him like, nah, you don't understand. Like some men, you can't bargain with them, you can't scare
No
them.
reason,
Nothing. They're just
rationalize.
here to watch stuff burn
Mm,
up. And he's right. And at the end, and
mhm.
before he's like, yo, you gotta endure this, man. Like this is what it is.
What you
This is
signed
what you
up for,
signed up
yeah.
for, right? And yo, shout out to Joker for creating the I killed you with a pencil trick before John Wick, man.
Oh man, I
Yo,
didn't even think about that, man. That's dope.
how about
Because
that?
I didn't
He
I didn't
originated
even
it's
until
I
you
can
said
kill
it.
you with a pencil.
Yeah, with a pencil. With the pencil. Who can do
So
that?
yeah, man. Yeah, it's yeah. And like you said, the cast amazing. We didn't really talk to you a lot about Gary Oberman who's in here.
No. That's the
Right.
other thing. Like these actors are award-winning
Yes.
actors, man. Cillian Murphy's
Yes.
in this joint in like 5
Yes.
minutes in the movie, and
Yep.
that's it. I mean, but you still remember, yo, that's Jonathan Crane, the
Yep.
Scarecrow, and he's out here
Still.
terrorizing people. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy how just the simplicity of these actors delivering 2 3
Yeah.
lines, but yet it's so memorable because you actually believe that they are
Yeah.
that
And there's
character.
world building that's happening because you're watching that
Yes.
character because Scarecrow's in all three movies. Like he's like
All 3
Batman.
movies,
He's
yep.
he's really the mainstay
Yeah.
along with everyone else. But you see like where he gets to. So yeah, man, a lot of slices of cake in there, man. Anything
Yeah.
else you got before we move on to the hate?
Other than the dialogue that everybody
Oh man.
knows, the famous lines and quotes, you know, this movie is great on so
It
many
is, yeah.
levels,
I
man.
love I love thinking about the lines. I love when Joker has the conversation with Harvey Dent, and he tells
Mhm.
him, like everybody goes along with the plan, even if the plan is
Yeah.
horrible, right?
Art.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, horrifying. Like it doesn't matter. If I tell, like, if three soldiers get killed, everybody's okay
Yeah.
because it's
Yep.
all part of the plan. That's something that has stuck with me for ever since I heard that because it's true.
Yeah.
You accept certain things even if they're terrible because you just expect that that's what's going to happen, and it's a really
And
strong social commentary.
yo, and that's the crazy part that you would bring that up, man, especially during this climate, during after this
Yes,
election, during this period in the
no doubt.
winter, on this day, in
Yep.
this month. Like there are people right now, literally, where ICE is just locking
Mhm.
people up, going to schools, to the point where the people that do the work that no one else wants to do are shutting down the economy. Farmers aren't able to get
Yeah,
crops out. Why? Because you don't
you don't have
have
the
the
workers
individuals who are
anymore.
picking the berries and stuff. So now you're going to want to make a salad, whether it be fruits or vegetables or whatever. That's going to be $8 when it used to cost you 2 or 3
Yeah.
bucks.
It's something, yeah, and that's the thing. Like people will go along with it, and no matter how horrifying it is, if they
Hmm.
think it's part of a plan. So yeah, man, it's amazing stuff, man. I got a little
Yeah.
bit of hate. I know you got a little bit more, so I'm gonna bang out
He
mine
said a
real
little.
quick, man.
He said a
I got a couple things,
little.
man. So I know, like in the first movie, they build it up that Batman's cape is like wind resistant somehow, and it allows him to
Yeah,
kind of float. But when him and
yeah,
Rachel
glide and
Dawes
stuff.
jump out that window, they had to fall about 60 stories. and they land on top of a taxi, which had a person in the taxi, by the way, and they
Oh
hit
yeah.
the thing and they're okay. Like, nah, he got he got a
Every
body armor on. He should be fine. Her back should be broken
talking about let's not
from
do
that,
that
right? Like,
again.
oh, like no, you should be because you did. That's why I can't do it again. So I never, no, I didn't like that. And then, the CGI on Harvey Dent, right? Okay, so I every time I watch it, I always feel like his eyeball should fall out because it's like it's nothing around his eye, and it's like his whole jaw
Yeah.
is out. Like it's, I get it, he burned his face off, but it should be like something there. It just looks, it looks unreal, and to me, and in the midst of a movie that's so grounded in reality, Harvey's face is just off the chain.
It's not doing it
It's
for
just,
you, oh
have
man.
you ever seen a picture of anybody's face look like that who was still alive?
I think the craziest thing about it is like you see his
Right.
teeth are
And they're
still
white,
there, but his
pearly
skin,
white.
yeah, pearly white, but there's a hole right here that's
I
very
know.
like positioned strategically so you can see like, nah, he's still got good
Yeah,
teeth
his
though.
teeth, his whole face is burned off, but his teeth are white and straight.
And there's a very
Right.
distinct line
I mean,
as to
come
like
on.
where his
Yeah.
face is on point.
Yeah.
I
So
get
that
it.
so that
I
that was
get it.
my stuff, man. What you got, man?
Oh man. Well, other than those two things you mentioned, which I hate as well. Yo, I'm not messing with Christian Bale's
It's not.
Batman
Yeah, I'm
voice,
glad you
man.
brought that up. I'm glad you brought it up.
I don't know, man. I just he even does it to Lucius
Yeah,
Fox. Like in character, he tells him like, just enter
yeah,
your name. And it's like, wait, he knows
yeah,
you, man. Like
yeah.
you don't have to put
Right,
on fronts or for
right.
him. So I'm just not cool with that. And at the same token, like I don't think Christian Bale has enough to be Batman. So whether it be the fight scenes
Mm,
or his presence as Batman, I don't think it's enough for me. Maybe a younger Batman who's finding his way, but he's not what I envision as Batman. I firmly believe that he is arguably the best Bruce Wayne,
interesting take. Okay,
where
okay,
but not the best
okay.
Batman. When he's like toasting and he's sarcastic and he's on the yacht and he's got
He
all
does that very
the
well.
ballerinas on the joint, like yo, those are things that Bruce Wayne tries to do in order to get people off the trail of him being
Yeah,
Batman. Um, and that leads to the fight scenes. I don't think that these fight scenes live up to what I envision or what I've read, or even seen in a cartoon or animated movie. As far as like Batman getting down and like, nah, he is one of the world's greatest martial
yeah,
artists, if not the greatest, for a reason. Like this is a dude who's on a team with super powered individuals, and they're afraid
yeah.
of him. Like you don't like he goes toe to toe with Superman.
So, okay. I'm sorry. I want you to. And I got a quick question
Yeah,
on that part.
yeah. And then I think I don't know, man. No disrespect to the ladies, but I don't understand why Maggie
Still no.
Gyllenhaal is Rachel Dawes. I'm not saying Katie Holmes didn't have the right to pursue other things because that was the rationale that they
Mhm,
gave, and maybe there's something else, maybe there isn't. Who knows? That's her business. But I would have liked to have seen the continuity
mhm.
there. I would have liked to have seen more development there. I don't want her to be torn between two guys. Like it should have been definitive. Like, yo, you're either with this dude or you're not. The guy proposed to you. You shouldn't be kissing Bruce Wayne in the next scene. I'm just not here. I'm not for that, yo. And then last but not least, just the lack of like true detective work, which is the reason why, and I get it, that you have Robert Pattinson as Batman, who's more into the detective, you
Yeah,
know, doing the clues, Sherlock Holmes thing. But I would have liked to see more elements in that embodied by Christian Bale if he's to pull off being Batman, who's not as muscular and bulky and a prowess martial arts
yeah.
expert.
It's interesting, like because I think like the things that you're talking about, particularly about the Batman part, are the reasons why I think the movie itself has become like the standard that things are measured against.
Mm,
Because the voice part, they solved that in Justice League by having Ben
hmm
Affleck's voice be altered by
Yeah,
like the
voice act.
technology. So it's like I think a lot of people saw what you saw and said, "Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't like that." Right? So they fixed it. And then the
hmm
detective part, you're right because the Batman is like a very
hmm
much a detective story
yeah,
because that might be the part that's not as explored in this trilogy. So I mean like that those both of those things are definitely there. And I see now why they did those things. Like how are you gonna up the ante? I think that's why you saw them
yeah.
in those things. The question I wanted to ask you about was You talked about the Batman's fighting style in this film. Is there
Mhm.
a film where you thought the fighting style did match up with your expectation?
Oh yeah, no question, man. No question. And at least one of my questions for you. I think that in Batman versus Superman, where
The
especially
warehouse
in that
scene,
scene
yeah,
in
yeah,
yo, that's one of my family's favorite
yeah. That is a
scenes.
very
Like
good scene.
we
Very
crack
strong.
jokes about that scene, man. Like there's certain scenes which is also going to lead to one of your questions for me, I believe. Like that are very hallmark as far as like a Superman or Batman or any type of superhero for that matter, like the fight
Yeah,
scenes. Like there has to be that scene that's very definitive, like, yeah, he embodies the
yeah,
character or the essence and the spirit
yeah.
of it.
Interesting. Yeah,
Without
that's
it,
yeah. I would. Yeah, I'd agree with you definitely on that. The warehouse scene. Thinking about it,
yeah,
yeah, it is amazing. It's a really dope scene. Yeah. All right.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
he
yeah, he
gets
does.
busy.
He does. Well, look, you foreshadowed the questions, man. So I got a couple
Yeah.
for you. We'll run them down. So the first one
All right.
is a little bit of a joke, but seriously though, why does anyone live in Gotham City? Why? Why is it? Can you imagine like a city where you got to worry about getting killed by the Joker or the Scarecrow or the Penguin? Your only hope is the Batman. Like, yo, you got to move, man. Like,
Yeah. No, a rational person would be like, yeah, we're not going to South Jersey. We're not living there. And yes, for all those that don't know, Gotham is not New York. It
it's
is
based
South
near. Yeah.
Jersey.
Yep.
It is based in New Jersey, not New York. Metropolis is New York. Gotham is South Jersey. Now, with that being said, everyone would be like, yeah, we're just going right past that. Matter of fact, arguably, you could say that Gotham is Camden, and that matches up
Shout outs to
because,
Camden.
yeah, because you already if, people don't want to go to Camden, but at that same token, yo, Camden, I don't want no smoke. But at the same token, um, I realistically, you got to look at it from a practical standpoint. If it's grounded in reality, insurance rates must be
Gotta
sky
be,
high.
man.
So
Gotta be,
I mean, like
man.
so your house, your car, whatever.
Life
The theft
insurance.
is off
Life
the chain.
insurance.
Off
Dog, as
mandatory,
soon as you type your
mandatory.
address, your zip code in, they're like, Psh, dog, we ain't even covering you, man.
Yeah,
It's too many ways you
yeah,
can
we can't cover you.
too many ways and stuff can
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, it's just too much. So you got to think like, man, do I want to raise a family here?
No,
Do I want
man.
to have kids here? Then you got to start thinking like, we got to have more than one hospital because the Joker's blowing up stuff. Like, so like we got to have at least 5 hospitals, and that's not realistic in one city. I mean, I agree with you, man. There's no rational person
No,
would live there in their
nobody
right
could do
mind.
that. All right. Here's my next question. So the movie doesn't give a backstory for the Joker. I'm asking you,
Mhm.
what's the Joker's backstory? How did the Joker get to be the Joker?
I don't care how you slice and dice it. Like, if you want to use rustic potatoes or if you want to use, I don't know, Idaho potatoes, I don't really care. The point is that he had a bad day. He had a bad
Okay.
experience. So if it's him telling the story about, hey, my wife was in deep
I
with the
love that. I
sharks,
love that he
with
gives those
loan
different
sharks, that
reasons. Yeah.
is. And yeah, or if it's, and I think that's the thing too. In the comic books, it always talks about he likes to spice things up by keeping everyone guessing about who
Yep.
he is. Whereas Batman knows who he is because he knows. I forget which issue it is, but Batman knows like his family relocated. They had to
The
relocate
last the last
his family.
last issue of Three Jokers.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
believe that. Yep, I believe that's what it is. And and he's like, no, that's not how it happened. He's like, actually, yeah, it is, man. And it doubles down on it when he has the Mobius
Mm-hmm.
chair, Batman, that is. But even with that said, I think somewhere along the way he had a bad day, and then and he may have been part of swept up in some type of criminal activity. So whether it's him being the Red Hood and being forced to carry on like the others before him, the name of the Red Hood, and he was an unsuspecting victim, or if he was a comic and he wasn't able to pay the rent and et cetera, et cetera. I don't care. He had a bad day, and he was just like, yo, F it, and decided to go all out crazy. And, hey, I'm tired of being on the bottom of the barrel. I've been taking it. Now I'm going to dish it
There it
out.
is. There have been people who have said that, like, based on what the Joker does, like you see this online, they say based on what the Joker has
Mhm.
done, some people think like he's a like ex-military person, someone who
Could
like
be.
because of his like knowledge of, like explosives and
Yeah.
setting up like different little devices and all kinds of stuff, and the planning of like things that might be where it
Mhm.
came from. But yeah, I mean, comic books tell you, dude, went nuts one day. Stuff didn't check out.
Yeah. Well, I do know that his origins are from an actor. Like they based him, Bill Fingers, and I forget the other gentleman's name
Yeah,
right
I
now.
remember we talked about it when we did
Yeah,
Joker. When we did the Joker movie. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I get that. You know what I mean? But you know what? That portion that you just commented on, there might be some validity to
Yeah,
that.
and now that I'm thinking about it too, even though Joaquin Phoenix played the Joker, everyone knew he wasn't playing the Joker, which is also,
Hmm.
I think, a deference to what Heath Ledger did in these movies,
Oh
also
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you 4 scenes, right? And I'm going to
Okay.
ask you to put them for me in order from this was the from like least best to best because I think these are all good scenes.
Okay.
All right. So one of the scenes is the bank robbery, which we talked about in the beginning, which really
Mhm.
establishes the Joker and
Yeah.
how calculated he is. Second scene is when the Joker meets the mob. That's in the
Oh, for the
in the
first time.
restaurant, yeah, with the pencil trick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Third thing scene is when Joker breaks into Bruce Wayne's party and looks
Oh,
for
okay.
Harvey Dent, doesn't find him. And the last
Okay.
is the Joker Batman interrogation scene.
Oh, okay.
So those are the
Okay.
4 scenes, right? Put
Wow.
them in order for me. This was like going up to this was for you the best scene in the movie. Those 4.
That's oh man, that's a brilliant question. Oh man, it's so difficult. Um, Dag. Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really gotta think
Something's
of
got to be number 4, man.
yeah,
Something's got to be number 4.
yeah. All right. So number 4, unfortunately, and this is really difficult, is the interrogation scene.
Really?
And yeah,
Wow.
I I say that because Batman's losing his cool. The
Yeah,
Joker is
yeah,
like he's enjoyed it. He's like, yo, you can't do anything to
yeah,
me. Like, and he's like, and then he even says to him, but hold up, I'm gonna
yeah.
tell
And
you.
gives him the
I'm gonna
wrong
tell
one. Then it
you.
tells him the wrong.
Yeah. Yo, this dude is vicious. Yo, but but at that point, he's already developed into this guy. So it's not like that wasn't
Okay.
foreseen for me. Like
All
I
right.
knew that he was going to try and toy with the Batman in some way, and he wanted to be alone with
Yeah.
them so that he could have this cat and mouse chase come to its conclusion, come to the penultimate resolution as far as what was
All
going
right.
to
So that's
happen.
4. All right. So number 3
Yeah,
is
that's 4. Number 3. Wow. Number 3's got to be when he meets Harvey for me. And the reason being is like he's on display and he's walking up to
Oh,
people,
yeah.
old man,
Yep. Yep.
young lady, he
Yep.
don't care. And he even tells you look
Yeah.
like my father. And it's
Yeah.
just like, and then Rachel comes in, he's like, he licks back his hair real quick. He's like, oh, you got sass. And then also he's just the back and forth between Maggie and Heath like that. That scene, like that's dope. But like you said, he shoots out the window, throws her
Yeah.
out, and he
That
kind
kind
of
of
does
hurts it
like
at the
this.
end. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And simultaneously, if you watch closely, he kind of does like this matador
Mm-hmm.
move where Batman like slides out. So it's almost like comical. Like,
Yeah.
really? This dude got the time to do
Yeah.
all that? The
One of the things I
wherewithal?
noticed about that scene is that when the Joker comes in, there's no score. So in that
No.
scene, so all you hear all the sounds of everything because there's no
Hmm.
score playing at that point, which heightens
Yeah.
up the intensity of the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. The
All right, so
tension.
that's
Yeah.
number 3. What you got at number 2?
Is the bank
Bank
scene.
scene, great. Bank robbery scene. Yeah,
Bank scene
it's
is
fantastic.
because like everybody's shooting each other. Like the boss said to do this. Like that joint is so marvelous.
It
Like
is.
if you're a criminal and you don't want to share, this is the blueprint on how to
Yeah.
do that, man. But at the same thing, like I said, he's just standing, he's laying there on the ground. William B, that is, I forget his last name, and he's just laying there and he's still giving a monologue. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
criminals used to
just
believe
like
in
you
something.
mentioned, nobody wants a
Right,
speech, nobody wants a
right,
lecture at
right,
that point, and you're about to
right.
die. Like you mentioned, just die already. From when you mentioned
Yeah,
in the
for the
Prestige,
prestige.
like
Just
just
die.
die.
You got shot. Just die. Hurry up. I got
It's a
things to
wrap. It's
do.
a wrap. Yeah, I got stuff to do, man. I'm on a schedule. I got to catch the rest of these
Right.
school
So that
buses.
means that number 1 for you is the rest
Yeah,
the kitchen scene with the mafia and the Joker.
yeah, because like this dude comes in and they're like, man, who is this dude? Like he is a
Yeah.
clown, and he automatically like, no, 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 no. I'm not. He tells them, I'm
I'm
not
not crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's when you should be
Yeah.
afraid. Like, wait, you're doing this
Yeah,
intentionally? This is psychological
yeah,
warfare?
yes,
Yeah, at that point, and not for nothing, Gamble is 2 times his
yeah,
size, and he's like, "Yo, we could get
yeah,
it." And he's like, "I ain't scared of
yeah.
you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna come to your. You know what? You just signed up to be number 1 on my
Yeah.
hit list." And he
He
follows
really
through on it.
does. You know, it's a great scene too, and it right away it gives the Joker credibility. Like from that scene,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, okay, this dude is about this life, right?
He
And
about
then
to,
it's
yeah.
also like Heath Ledger also he's also funny, like in these little moments, because
Yeah.
even in that moment, his card is just a Joker card with his phone number on it. Which is fun.
With
It's
his
so many
number on it.
little funny things, like when they're trying to drive out with Harvey, like after they arrest him for allegedly being Batman, the Joker sets a fire truck on fire, right? That's ironically funny, right? Or when the hospital's blowing up and he's pressing the button.
Oh,
it's just, it's just
oh,
it's
man.
ridiculous. It
It's just
is.
crazy, man.
It
It's just
really is. It
crazy.
really is, man. All right. What questions you got? You got some questions for me, man?
Yeah, man, I got a couple here on deck. Why does anyone live in Gotham
Mm.
was your question, and I'm going to piggyback off of that. All right, but a little bit different. My question is, all right, so if everybody's in Gotham and there's these alternate universes and such, who is your Batman? Like, who is the definitive
You know what,
Batman and
man? I'm
why?
gonna tell you. You said something. When I saw you were gonna ask me this question, I had an answer, and
Hmm.
then I heard you say
Okay,
something that changed it for me. So I
really?
have
Okay.
thought that for a while that, like, there's so many people have played Batman in these movies, right?
Hmm.
And I used to say that I thought Michael Keaton did the best at playing Bruce Wayne, and that Ben
Hmm.
Affleck did the best at playing Batman, right? Because I agree, the fight
Hmm.
scene in the last joint in
Hmm.
Batman vs Superman is great. I think that I'm gonna say that in fact Christian Bale does the best Bruce Wayne, and
Mm.
I'm still gonna give Ben Affleck the best Batman. And I think I do think like Ben Affleck is playing like the older, more grizzled
Hmm.
Batman that like lost
Hmm.
Robin and
Hmm.
everything. So it's like a different version
Yeah,
than
yeah.
kind of what the other ones are. But yeah, that's what I would say. So you shifted like during the course of this conversation. I moved on from Michael Keaton, although I think Michael Keaton has done a great job with both
Oh,
Batman
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Bruce Wayne. And I loved him in the Flash. Actually, they should have
Oh,
did Batman
definitely.
Beyond with him, but
Yeah.
DC don't want your
Oh,
money, so they
man.
so they didn't do that.
What do you
A
call it again?
preserger. Yeah.
A
So the
berserk?
preserger is
Yeah.
like when they give you something that you don't want from somewhere that you normally get something. So it's like I said, it's like if Pizza Hut started making burgers, like, okay, that's fine, but I just want pizza from them. Just give me the pizza. Like I
Yeah.
think as fans, like, okay, Michael Keaton was dope in the Flash, right? Okay, cool. Give me Batman
Yeah.
Begins with that. I'll take that. But no, you don't want to give me that. You want to give me whatever some
Mhm.
other thing. I didn't ask for Blue Beetle. Like you want me to watch that.
No.
So
No.
that's what it is. But yeah,
And that's no knock
no,
on
it's not.
Blue
It's
Beetle
not.
though.
It's not. But I just want Batman. I want Batman Beyond. So that's what I'm saying.
I do too. I agree with you, yo. I agree. Uh so my next question for you is then, what does Harvey Dent's transformation into Two-Face symbolize about the nature of good and
I think
evil?
it just tells you, and we see this so much, right? We've seen it so much in history that unfortunately people will go along with um, evil if
Mm.
they believe that that's the prevailing order and trajectory of the day. So like, like people used to
Mm.
say like, when the Holocaust was going on, like, yeah, you might have the ideology of Nazism and all that, but you also had some people that were like, okay, cool,
Mhm.
I'm gonna drive this train that's got these people on it. And I'm gonna build this
Mhm.
machine that people are gonna get in that's a gas chamber. And the question is like, why do people go along with that? Like why do people
Yeah.
do that part? And I think it's because some people really can be pushed to, and not don't be pushed really hard,
Mm.
but can be pushed into a situation where they will become the architects of the destruction of other people. In
Mm.
the movie, like you see that with Harvey Dent, but as we talked about earlier, the people on the boat don't do that. Like one of those
Yeah.
groups could have gone along with the same thing that the Joker was putting down and that Harvey was putting down, but they didn't. Even the Batman doesn't kill Joker knowing that the Joker is really responsible for Rachel's death,
Yeah.
right? So it's like it just shows you like, yeah, sometimes even the best or what you think is the best of humanity can become the worst of humanity under the right pressure. And I think that's what you see.
That's a dope response. I like that, man. I like that. So, does Batman's willingness then to operate outside the law make him a hero or a villain?
So Batman is, it's not that he's a lawbreaker. I know like that's threading the needle on that question.
Mhm.
But I think he's squarely involved in dealing with like justice as most of us would consider it. Like he's trying to stop, the robbers, the killers, the rapists, the murderers. And no one would be against that. But it's kind of
Right.
reminds me of I remember like I don't remember what episode it was, but we did the Ides of March, right? And the Ides of March has
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
scene in it where they're talking to George Clooney's character and he's the president and they're like saying like, are you for the death penalty? And he's like, no, I'm against it.
Hmm.
Right. And so then the guy who's played by Charlie Rose says to him, well, if somebody killed your wife, what would you do? And he's like, well,
Hmm.
I would find that
Yeah.
person and I would kill them. And he says, so you are in favor of corporate of the death penalty? And he's like, no, I would have been committing a crime. And when I did that,
Hmm.
I would expect to go to jail and I'd be happy to do it. And I think like that's the thing. Batman doesn't live in that part of it. Like it's okay for if
Right.
Batman wants to operate outside the lines and do all these things, that's fine. But then he really should be an enemy of the state as well. And the idea that
Yeah.
like the police department doesn't treat him as such allows like that
Yeah.
hole in the logic, which is where the Joker and all these other maniacs start to crawl out of.
That's tough too, because that's when Barbara Gordon says when she sees him in the shadows. And at first in the movie theater, when I first saw it, I was like, who's she
Yeah.
talking to? And then I had to focus and it was him. And then she's like, you're the reason why this happened.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a
Yeah.
powerful
Because
statement.
yeah,
At first,
it's the escalation of that, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yep,
like
yep.
Vision in what was it, Civil War, saying like ever since we formed the
Oh
Avengers,
yeah,
all these maniacs have come out of
all these things
right.
have escalated.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough right there, man. That's tough. So my last question for you then is, how does the film portray the concept of a dark knight, and what does it mean for Batman's
Yeah,
character
it
arc?
shows you that Batman, I think at the end of it, because what's interesting is like, I've like I said, I've watched this movie many times. Somehow I didn't really think about the implications of this particular part. At the end of the movie, Batman does kill Harvey Dent. He
Yeah,
knocks him off the thing and he
over the
dies.
edge.
Like
Yeah.
he did kill Harvey Dent. Like he did break his rule. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like that wasn't the way or the person that he should have been doing it with. I think like he realizes at the end, I can't like think that I'm going to be a good guy and do this for real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when he kills
Yeah.
Harvey at the end, it's like that's the realization for him. Yeah, I killed Harvey, and Gordon doesn't even think about it either. Like
No, no
he
one
did actually
does.
kill Harvey Dent, and then he's like, okay, I killed
Mhm.
him. I'm gonna take the weight for all of the stuff that he did because the image of what he's saying, what he was about, was important. But then even then, I'm being
Mhm.
dishonest because I'm pretending like this was a good guy and he's not. And I think like he
Mhm.
just I think Bruce Wayne just realizes, yeah, this wasn't gonna work the way that I thought it was, man. And I think that's
No.
kind of why he
No.
steps away from the Batman thing, and that's why the Dark Knight Rises
Mhm.
starts where it is. So I think like that's the character
Mhm.
arc because I don't know for sure that when Nolan made this movie, he knew that there would be a third. I think he kind of laid
Yeah,
out the terms for it, but it wasn't like a foregone conclusion.
I
Yeah, and
guarantee.
then like
Yeah.
it did a Billy, off 185, 185
Five.
million. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna make a third one, and then he could pick up on those ideas. But to just summarize the point, I do think that at the end, I think Bruce just realizes, yeah, I can't do this Batman thing this way because Joker is the beginning of all the maniacs that are going to come down the pipe.
And that's the thing that I think that you touched upon that's kind of crazy, which is unfair expectations. Everyone is expecting now movies to sell
Yeah,
for
yeah,
$1 billion off of a low
yeah.
budget in creating them. And it's like, come on, man. That's not the norm. That's
It's
not gonna
not.
happen.
It's not. It's not. And it's not realistic expectation. And not everything has
No,
to do those
not at all.
numbers to be good. We've talked about a lot of
No, that's
movies.
the other
Like we
thing.
started with Memento. Memento, like it might have made 100 million on like 7 million budget,
Yeah,
but a good is good. Like the measure of whether it's
yeah,
not a movie is good is not how many tickets did it sell.
yeah. I agree. I
So
agree,
it's
man.
not there. So all right, man. So popcorn wise, I'm giving this 5. This is like one of my
Well, you better, Mister
this,
10 times
we're
full
about
movie theater
you know what?
joint.
You know what? You're right. I did. And you know what, man? I skipped over this, but I gotta come back to you on this question. I forgot.
What's that?
Yo, I need your
What's
top
that?
5 comic book movies of all time. I
Oh,
forgot
oh,
about that. When you
wow.
just said it, it just reminded me. What's your
Okay,
top
okay.
5? Top
All
5
right.
dead or alive comic book movies of all time. I'm rhyming. I got
Yeah, I see
so
that. I see
I'm
that.
doing it. What you got, man? Give it to me.
Oh man. Yo, I'm telling you right now, this is really, really, really extremely hard. I know it's gonna upset some people, but this is
Right.
my
It's your
list. It's not
right.
your list.
Look,
It's
it's our
my
show,
list.
man. Do what you
Uh,
say what you want to
yeah.
say.
So, all right. This movie is my number
Let me hear
5
it.
movie because it starts where the other movies are going to lead. You know what I mean? Like it
Oh, you're saying The
is
Dark Knight is
the
your number 5? Wow.
yeah, The
Okay.
Dark Knight is my
Okay.
number
Okay.
5 movie because it ushered in and set a precedent. Like you got to be better than
Okay.
this in order for us to be like, yeah, all right, that's a
Okay.
dope
I can't
movie.
wait to hear the other
All
4.
right,
All right. So we got The Dark Knight at number
yeah,
5. All right.
yeah, yeah. So for
Hmm?
me, it's
It's number
Infinity
4.
War.
Okay.
Number 3 is
Okay.
Endgame.
Okay. Which we got to do one of those two eventually at some point because they're great
Yeah.
films. Yeah.
Number 2. Now this joint right here, man, like this really. At one point, this was my favorite superhero movie, and that's Captain America:
Great
Winter
film. I
Soldier.
love that
Like
film.
when
I
when
love
I
it.
saw that in the theater, I was like, nah, this joint is on some
Yes.
espionage thriller, like, and it's got some of my favorite scenes. Like the movies I named all have a
Yeah.
favorite scene. So when Thor, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot come down, he's like, "Bring
Yeah.
me that!" Like that joint. Everybody was hyped, but I was probably even more souped in the theater when that joint dropped. I went and saw that
It was
movie
great.
4 times.
Hmm.
You want to talk
Yeah.
about? I saw just for
Infinity
that
War was
scene,
like that.
and then when Captain America jumps out the plane and dude is like, who actually played another villain in Batman, where he played KG Beast. He says, "Did he just jump without a
Yeah.
parachute?"
Yeah.
And Crossbones is like, "Yeah, he did." He starts laughing. That scene when he's running around beating people, that's one of my favorite scenes. The second favorite scene in that joint is the
Oh,
elevator scene,
elevator
of
scene,
course. And
classic,
all the
classic, great,
yo,
great
I'm
comic
like,
book movie
yo,
scene. Yes, definitely,
yo.
definitely.
So that's why it was my number 1 for the time because it has so many dope scenes in that joint. But it got knocked out by a movie that I don't like. I don't like it
But it's the
at
best.
all.
But it's the best.
And people
Wait, you
want,
don't like it, but it's
but it's
also
the
the best
best
comic.
comic
Okay, I
movie.
got. Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
And people might think I'm smoking crack. Like, what is he talking about? Logan. I did
Very,
not
very good.
like Logan, but I respect it because the way that Mr. Stewart and
Hugh Jackman.
the way and Mr. Jackman get busy in that joint, and just the way that everything goes down and what happens to him, like it's old
Yeah.
man Logan on
Yep.
the screen, like just everything. Like I just don't like that he
Yeah, I know you hate
died the
when
way he died,
dudes.
and it just
You
yo
hate when the
you.
good guy dies at the end.
I've only seen that movie once. Do you understand that? That's my boycott against seeing that
I
movie
dig
again.
it.
Every time it comes on TV,
I
I
dig
turn
it.
it. Yo,
I dig it.
I
I
I
dig it.
hate it, man.
You know what? You know what though? I get it because like there's one movie that I am like that about, and it's Carlito's Way. I hate to see
same
Carlito get
here.
killed
Same,
and die at the end of the movie.
yeah,
Except for that
I
one,
can't watch
that's the
it.
one time that I really don't. I actually never watched the end of it because I actually don't want to see
And
Benny Blanco get him at the end. But that's
I
that's the
hate
one thing that I don't. But everybody else they can get it. But yeah, I hate to see Carlito Brigante get
yo
it, man. At the end.
on the real. If it wasn't for him redeeming himself in John Wick, I wouldn't mess with him. Yo, I wouldn't mess with him. I would. That's real talk, man. Like,
Yo, that's a real fan thing. So, all right. So, let me just. So, you got. So, number 1 is Logan. Number 2 is Captain
mhm.
America: The Winter Soldier. Number
Yep.
3 is Infinity War. No,
No,
Endgame. Number 3
Endgame.
is Endgame. Number 4 is Infinity War. Number 5 is The Dark Knight. That's a tough list.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yo, what's yours, man?
Oh
Well, you can't
man,
just
you know
leave
what?
like
It's
that.
funny, man. Like your everything that you said, I got 4 of your 5, and then I got one more that
Yeah.
I'm adding. So my number, it's better if I think about from 1 to 5. So I think the best comic book
Okay.
movie of all time really is Infinity War. And the reason why is because like I
Mm.
think Infinity War is like a comic book in a movie on a movie theater, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it does a
yeah,
great
yeah,
job
yeah.
with it. So that's my number 1. My number 2 is The Dark Knight. So Dark Knight,
Okay.
number 2.
Okay.
My number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I just think
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. My
Yeah.
number 4 is Logan because I think
Mm.
Logan is it's a great movie. Number 5, I'm actually going to take Black Panther because
Yo, that was my honorable
I just feel
mention.
like it's we've talked. I mean, like we did that last year, and
Yeah.
I think Black Panther is just the best black
Yeah.
movie made of all time, which that's
Yeah. I
just
might have to
crazy.
agree with you
But it's
on
like it's a
that.
fantastic comic book movie with all the cultural elements and things that are
Yeah.
built into it. So that's that. If I was gonna have an honorable mention though, it would be V for Vendetta, which I think is
Ooh, yeah.
like
Ooh,
which I think is a
yeah.
great film. Great film,
Yo, then
which we cover too as well.
yeah, I was gonna say we did that
Yeah.
joint. And if you want to talk about like honorable mentions, like just thinking about like high school and honorable mention for all county
Mhm.
or whatever, I gotta throw in Road to Perdition in that joint.
That's a comic book? That's
Yo,
built on a
Tom
comic
Hanks.
book? I
Yeah,
did not
it's
know
a
that.
graphic
Oh,
novel.
okay. Okay.
Tom Hanks, he gets
Okay.
busy in that joint, and I would like Paul Newman's last movie, like
Got
man,
it.
oh yeah, and even they throw James Bond in there, man.
Hmm.
Like I just like yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but good list though, man. Good list of things, and we covered some of those,
Appreciate it.
so that's
Likewise.
good too, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I had five boxes of popcorn on Dark Knight. What did you have on Dark Knight?
Yo, because I had the hate, I gotta give it four and a
I got
half,
it. I
man.
got it.
The movies we covered before didn't have
That's
hate,
true.
so that was why they were
Listen,
five.
that
I
tracks.
gotta
That tracks.
yeah,
I got you.
I dig it,
I
man.
got you. All
Yeah.
right then, man. So all right, well let's hit the summary then, man. Wrap this up.
Yeah. Underneath its superhero facade, the film's a psychological thriller exploring the deepest depths of human nature and morality. The stakes grow higher as Batman makes the ultimate sacrifice, choosing to become the fall guy for Dent's destructive downfall. This decision highlights the film's dramatic core, where heroism and horror coexist in a distant and a dance as mesmerizing as it is dangerous. As Batman grapples with the shadows of his own decisions, the film delivers a chilling exploration of the thin line between justice and vengeance.
There it is, man. There it is. So we've just done The Dark Knight, and we have completed 4 weeks of Christopher
Yeah,
Nolan films. It's been fun, man.
I definitely
Yeah,
loved it.
it's
Yeah,
been fun.
definitely loved
And I
this.
mean, we didn't even do Interstellar. We didn't do
Mm-mm.
Dunkirk. We didn't do Tenet.
Yo,
We didn't actually even do some other things that are like amazing films as well. We've done Oppenheimer
and
already. I know he's
yeah,
on his way
yep.
making the Odyssey now, which looks like the
Yo, that's
cast for that looks crazy. So,
yeah,
2026, we'll probably be back talking about that at some point as well. Um,
yes, sir.
just a couple other just quick closeout things. Once again, we are doing a raffle this month. So if we are, in order to be in the raffle, what you need to do is just subscribe to our show and like one of our
Hmm.
videos. That will enter you into a raffle to get a free photo shoot done by Mr.
Yep,
Kasim George of KIG Photos on Instagram. You can check out his work there. We showed a little bit of it at the beginning of the show. We will do the raffle after January 31st. So you got one last week to put put your name into the hat. We'll do it by your YouTube handle. So we'll get that
yep,
information that way. We'll reach out to you if you're selected, partner you with Mr. George, and you guys can schedule the photo shoot from that point. Also, this is our closeout episode for season 6. So,
crazy.
right, it went by fast because it was fun. So, me and Mr. Will, we'll be on vacation a little bit, man, and we will be back though right around say mid-February, which I think is going to coincide with what is it? Captain America 4, Black Cap 1,
Hmm.
Cap's World
Yeah,
half,
man.
whatever it is. We'll be back right around that time. So maybe that's what we'll do when we come back.
Yeah,
Once again, the Sticky Floors podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify Podcasts. We are on YouTube. I almost forgot
Yes,
YouTube.
sir.
We're on
Obviously.
YouTube, right? Obviously, right. We want you to like, subscribe, share, comment. Your comments help us to do this better. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace.